How'd I get here? What's up, everybody, and welcome to One Man's Opinion. Hey, Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Hope you're having an amazing holiday season. Hope you got all the presents that you wanted. All right, today we're talking about the top 10 Christmas movies of all time. Hey, let's stir up some controversy, and let's have us one of those good old top 10 videos. Let's start off with an honorable mention, though, and we're going to get this out of the way right now. There's been a long-standing debate going on the internet, and has been going on for years, whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Let me tell you outright right now, Die Hard is an action movie set with a Christmas backdrop. There is a Christmas party going on. It is happening during Christmas time, but it is not a Christmas movie. The theme of the movie is not Christmas. It's not about Christmas. My dad really wanted it on this list, so it's going to get an honorable mention. There are so many great Christmas movies out there that how are you going to put a movie that's not even really about Christmas over an actual Christmas movie on a list? It just wouldn't be fair. Then any movie that takes place around Christmas could be considered a Christmas movie. So it just doesn't meet the parameters. I'm sorry, Die Hard fans, people who think it's a Christmas movie. It's not a Christmas movie. It is an action movie set around Christmas. With that out of the way, we get into the top 10. Coming in at number 10, we've got 2003's Bad Santa. Now, Bad Santa makes this list because it's a really funny movie, and it is a Christmas movie. Now, first of all, let me get the negatives out of the way. Bad Santa is not a family-friendly movie. There is alcohol abuse. There are a lot of dirty jokes, and so, it's not like a family-friendly holiday film. But it is a Christmas movie, and it is pretty funny. Now, I can remember when it came out in 2003 and seeing commercials for it, and my mom sitting in the room with me and being like, that looks disgusting. I would never watch that. My kids are not going to watch that, and I understand that sentiment completely. The whole movie feels grimy. Like, Billy Bob Thornton looks dirty. Like, it does have dirty jokes, but the movie feels dirty. The whole thing is just kind of gross and unappealing to look at. The saving grace of this movie is, number one, the humor. It is pretty funny. And number two, it actually does end up having a little bit of a story. This mall Santa is down on his luck, and he's miserable, and he meets this weird kid, and they form this bond, and he ends up protecting him and looking out for this kid. He meets a good woman. And so, it does have a redeeming story arc. Billy Bob Thornton does go through a redemption arc in this movie. He's still not like a great person at the end of it, but he does learn and grow. And there is a little bit of that Christmas element where he becomes a better person by the end of it. So, for those reasons and the fact that it's just a really funny movie, it comes in at top 10. All right, at number 9 goes Jingle All the Way. And I already did a review on Jingle All the Way, so you can go and click over and watch it if you want to know more about it. Basically, Jingle All the Way is just a good time. It's just a fun holiday movie. It's not going to make like real high on this list because I don't think it's a classic. I don't think it's one that's going to go down as like one of the better holiday movies of all time. But it does have something that the others don't really have. This movie doesn't beat you over the head with some sort of moral. You just want to sit down and watch like a family movie where you might get some chuckles. This is the one. This is the Christmas movie for you. It's the one where you can just sit down and be like, it's not a great acting movie. It's not an awesome story or anything, but it is a good time. It's fun, and you're going to get some laughs out of it. So if that's the sort of holiday or Christmas movie you're looking for, Jingle All the Way is a good one for you. Coming in at number 9. All right, number 8, I've got The Santa Claus. Santa Claus came out in 1994 and stars Tim Allen. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but there is something special about it. It kind of gives a peek behind the curtain to, I guess, who Santa Claus could be in more of a real-world scenario, as much as a realistic view of Santa Claus, I guess, could be. What does he do throughout the rest of the year? Kind of shows some of the magic. He's got these elves that like invent flame retardant suits for him. And so there's a lot of like kind of peek behind the curtain stuff that I thought it's interesting. It's a really good idea. And I've always loved Tim Allen. It's a really fun movie to watch. There's just a Christmas magic to it. I think that's the best thing is you really get to see the North Pole, and you get to see the elves and the kind of behind the scenes for Santa Claus. And I think it's a really cool movie idea, and it really does have it has a magic to it. I'm not saying the acting's always the best. There's a lot of kid actors in the movie. And I think the Santa Claus 2 might actually be a little bit better than the first one. But you can kind of lump them together here. Again, if you want a good family-friendly movie this holiday season to sit down and watch and just enjoy and kind of relive some of that magic that the holidays have for you, especially when you're a kid, I think this is a good movie for you. Coming in at number 7 is 2000's The Grinch. This movie stars Jim Carrey, directed by Ron Howard. The Grinch is a Dr. Seuss book that I always loved as a kid, but I was never a fan of the cartoon movie. So there's this older cartoon movie that even as a kid bored me. I just didn't like it. The Who's are very uninteresting, and the Grinch is kind of bland in the cartoon, and I never really liked it a whole lot. I loved the book, but wasn't a big fan. And then you get Jim Carrey. And I will say the Who's in this movie to me are still kind of just bland characters. They try to spice it up a little bit. They add a lot of story in there to make it a full-length film because, How the Grinch Stole Christmas is a pretty small book. But every time Jim Carrey is on screen as the Grinch, I mean, he steals the show, and it's genuinely a lot of fun to watch this guy in a green suit run around. He does a good job as the Grinch. He's kind of this gross, disgusting, horrible creature. He's kind of a butthead when you meet him, but you can tell there's like a little bit of good in him. And then you get a little backstory built in. I don't know if I like all that, but I know one thing. I know that the movie is a good time. There are some legitimately funny laughs in there. It's based on a book that has been a staple since it came out. So you think about all that, and then you finally get a worthy Grinch put to film, and I think it would be hard to keep it off this list. So a strong number 7, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Jim Carrey. Okay, coming in at number 6, an interesting little movie, Elf. Elf came out in 2003 and stars Will Ferrell. Now, it's funny because when I think of Will Ferrell movies, I think of Step Brothers, or I think of Talladega Nights, or really a whole lot of other movies, but I always kind of forget about Elf. And when I think of Christmas movies, I remember Elf. But when I think of Will Ferrell, I don't think of Elf. And that's because you get a little bit of a different Will Ferrell in this movie. Now, granted, he's still an idiot. He's still running around. He's yelling a whole lot. He's acting stupid. He's eating weird things. It's still typical Will Ferrell, but it's not SNL Will Ferrell, and it's not most of his adult comedy movie Will Ferrell. This actually has a lot of heart to it. It's really kind of crazy because on its face, someone can watch Elf and be like, this is a stupid movie, and it is. But there actually is a lot of heart to it. Will Ferrell is this really big guy running around in an elf costume, but he has so much innocence, and he truly looks at Christmas the way you probably did as a child. He still sees the magic. He still sees the perfection that is Christmas. When I was a kid, Christmas was perfect. It was the best time of year. And it still can be if you can still look at it that way. If you don't let the stress of adulthood and what Christmas is as an adult get to you, if you don't get bogged down in all of that stuff, Christmas is still this powerful thing that brings us together as family, as friends, and it reminds us to give, And so Elf still holds a lot of that magic, and Buddy the Elf, he sees that magic of Christmas, and it really is heartwarming. And if you take a step back and stop rolling your eyes at Will Ferrell's crazy antics for a little while, which I like Will Ferrell, but I know he's not for everybody. Take a step back from that and look at the story for what it is. There's actually a lot there. There's a good moral at the end, and it's a good story. Plus, Zooey Deschanel looks great as a blonde, so there you go. All right, we've reached the top 5, and it's time to get into those really good classic Christmas movies. And coming in at number 5 is Home Alone. And I'm cheating a little bit. I'm putting Home Alone 1 and 2 together because those were Macaulay Culkin's 2 additions to the Home Alone franchise. They're the only Home Alone movies that matter, and they kind of do go hand in hand together. If you backed me into a corner and made me pick which one was better, I would say 2 is the better one. It doubles down on everything that's great from the first movie while also adding a few more interesting characters to the mix and giving it a better setting. I think being lost in New York, it's more intimidating for a kid to be lost in a huge place that they're not familiar with than it is to be in the comfort of their own home. Having said that, Home Alone is amazing for a lot of different reasons. There's obviously a lot of laughs. Everyone loves to see Harry and Marv get outsmarted and beat up by this little kid. It's a great time, and it's so much fun. But then it also has such a good message. Christmas, the holiday season in general, can be such a stressful time. And sometimes you find yourself so frustrated by your own family and so sick of them you think, man, if I could just get away from all this, I would just much rather just be away from everybody and just take a step back and just spend some time on my own. But at your heart, no matter how frustrated you get with family, at your heart, you know you wouldn't trade them for anything. You need your family. You need your friends. You need the people who are around you. As annoying and aggravating as they can be, spending the holidays alone could be a very sad thing. And I think it's even more relevant this year because a lot of people are having to do that because of the virus. I think this year Home Alone especially speaks to people because it could be such a stressful time for everybody. But this year, those who are getting to see family are just happy that they're getting to see family and spend time with them. And those who aren't certainly wish that they could. Home Alone, aside from being a great movie and a funny movie and a good time for the entire family. Also, a really good message there to appreciate what we have, no matter how much we aggravate each other sometimes. Okay, coming in at number 4 is another interesting one, and it's interesting because it's not really my favorite movie. Any other movie on this list, whether it's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Jingle All the Way, Elf, whatever you want to say, I would watch all of those movies again right now before I watch this one. And that movie is A Christmas Story. A Christmas Story is number 4 on this list because it is an undeniable staple of the season. A Christmas Story is on every channel constantly all through the month of December. You cannot turn on the TV and flip through the guide without some channel having A Christmas Story on, which is fine. There's a reason people love that movie. It's very familiar. A lot of people really relate to it. A lot of people watch it and they remember their childhood and it takes them back to a simpler time. I think anybody who grew up in the 80s or even the early 90s, before the internet, before cell phones, before things like that really hit, you had simpler childhoods. And this movie is so reminiscent of those times. If you were able to grow up a little bit in those times, then you know what I'm talking about. And so there is a special place for this movie. It's one of those movies where if you sat down and you said, Dylan, this movie should be number 1, number 2, number 3, it should be higher on your list, it should have done better, I wouldn't even argue with you. I'd be like, no, I totally understand why you're saying that. There are a lot of great arguments to be made for this film. It is a classic. It is an awesome Christmas movie. It is an amazing Christmas story. But for me personally, there are a lot of periods throughout this movie. Though there are iconic scenes, there are iconic moments, there are a lot of portions of this film that are just kind of boring to me. This movie has never really held my interest all that much. I don't know. And you may disagree. You may not like that take. I get it if you don't. You know, even though I do like the rest of the movies on this list better, I had to put it at number 4 just out of respect. This movie came out in 1983. It's been around for almost 40 years now, and it's certainly a movie that is probably watched as much as, if not more than, most other holiday movies. It's withstood the test of time. There's a reason it's one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time. I had to give it the respect it's earned. Christmas Story comes in at number 4. Okay, coming in at number 3, and really listen, I don't care. A lot of people may disagree with this. I really don't care. A Muppet Christmas Carol is one of the greatest holiday movies of all time. First of all, it came out in 1992, but it's based on a book that was written in 1843 by Charles Dickens. You want to talk about a story that has withstood the test of time? That's it. There are countless versions of this story put to film, including several movies that have the exact title, A Christmas Carol, and then other movies that have kind of spun off that and taken the idea. So much has been borrowed from this. So much has been taken from it. The story A Christmas Carol is a timeless classic story. And frankly, aside from going back to the very origins of Christmas and looking at like just where Christmas came from and the specifics of Christmas, A Christmas Carol is probably one of the oldest and most recognized Christmas stories ever, at all, period, in all of history. With that in mind, I think that the Muppet version is the best version, and I'll tell you why. A Muppet Christmas Carol manages to do a lot of things in a very short amount of time. You have the Muppets, who are constantly putting in silliness, family fun, laughs, all the good stuff. They're putting that into the story where there is room throughout, while maintaining the gravity of such a serious story. The lessons are still there. Everything that you want to learn in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, still there. You have an outstanding performance by Michael Caine, who does a great job as Scrooge. There's a lot of heartfelt moments. There are a lot of serious moments. There's even the moment where he meets the third ghost, the ghost of Christmas Future. I don't think anything is lost in A Muppet Christmas Carol, but you're also adding some humor, some silliness, some family-friendly stuff where it can be added without taking away from the impact of such an amazing story. It's really quite amazing that they pulled it off, because you think the Muppets are crazy and all the Muppet stuff, and it's great. All that's there, but also with the impact of A Christmas Carol, and it's really an amazing performance by Michael Caine, top to bottom, funny, heartfelt, everything you could want in a Christmas movie. If you haven't seen The Muppet Christmas Carol, do yourself a favor, seriously, watch it as soon as you can. It's a really great movie for the whole family. I think everybody will enjoy it. That's my number 3. Coming in at number 2, people are going to be mad that it's not my number 1, is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is one of the funniest movies of all time. If all I said about it was that would be enough. If I made a top 10 funniest movies of all time, just a comedy top 10 without Christmas or anything like that, it would probably make the top 5. I don't know that it would, but it would certainly more than likely make the top 10 list. And that's saying something. When you've got a Christmas movie and it's that funny, and it's one of the funniest movies of all time, there's not much in the world that could beat a movie like that out. And again, it does such a good job looking at family and how irritating family can be, how weird family can be. I think that's why people love this movie so much. It is really, really funny, but it's also so relatable because we all think that we have the weirdest family in the world. I've never met anybody who wasn't like if you got a new boyfriend or girlfriend and you were going to your first family Christmas together, you always warn the boyfriend or girlfriend about this certain family member. They're going to say something. They're going to do something crazy. We all have this anxiety about our family. And I think that's portrayed so well with Cousin Eddie and the whole family. The movie does an amazing job of being one of the funniest movies of all time, but also so accurate, so smart, and still having a good solid Christmas message. And so it does everything that you could ask a Christmas movie to do, and could only be beat out by one of the greatest movies of all time. And that's our number 1, one of the greatest movies of all time, It's a Wonderful Life. Now, maybe this isn't the movie for you. It is an old movie. It's a Wonderful Life came out in 1946. And when you talk about a film that has withstood the test of time, it's undebatable. It's a Wonderful Life is one of the most iconic films in all of film. If you haven't seen it, don't let black and white scare you away. Don't think that just because it's an older film it has nothing to offer today. It is so well acted, so well written, such an amazing story that really you have to see it. You have to see it. So much has been taken from It's a Wonderful Life. So much has been borrowed in the same way that A Christmas Carol has been borrowed from so much. It's a Wonderful Life has been too. It's truly a staple of film. It's truly one of the great films of all time. Certainly the greatest Christmas movie of all time. From beginning to end, an amazing message about life and the value of life and the value of a good deed and how we can all have positive impacts on our fellow man. Everyone knows about Clarence the Angel, and when a bell rings, that means an angel gets his wings. The scene, do you want the moon? Why don't I throw a lasso up around it and bring it down? That whole thing. I know I'm not getting the quote right, but it is such a powerful movie. It's a beautiful film. It's a beautiful story. And it is the greatest Christmas movie of all time. It doesn't have to be your favorite movie of all time. A lot of people this holiday season are going to sit down and watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. If I talk to a family and I'm like, hey, what's your go-to Christmas movie? 9 times out of 10, Christmas Vacation is the go-to. But when you're talking about not the most entertaining, there's a difference between greatest and most entertaining. When you're talking about the greatest Christmas movie with the best Christmas message, the biggest impact on Christmas culture, It's a Wonderful Life is that film. Okay, all right. Look, I know a lot of you are going to have a lot to say. I know some of you probably are mad that I left off Miracle on 34th Street. It's just never been one of my favorite movies. And so I apologize to you if that was a big one for you. I know there's a couple of others. I didn't put any of the claymation movies like Rudolph and that stuff on here. And I didn't put Frosty the Snowman on here. I thought about Charlie Brown Christmas Special, but I'm very happy with my list. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I think there's a little bit of something for everyone in there. And if you just don't really want a Christmas movie and you just want some action this Christmas, go watch Die Hard. Okay? All right. Well, look, if you disagree, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell button so you're notified when I put up a video. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy holiday schedule to watch this video. I know it's a hassle. I know this is a long one, so it means the world to me. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.